Yo, thank God Elden Ring is scary. You have no idea what a relief that is to me. This game is FromSoftware at their FromSoftiest, and I couldn't be happier to know that they're back to their horror roots. Because here's the thing. A lot of people recognize that FromSoftware games typically blend horror elements with fantasy, but I don't think a lot of people realize just how crucial those horror elements are towards making a compelling experience. Let me paint you a familiar picture. In fact, it's a picture that's been painted so many times I'm practically plagiarizing. The year is 2011, and you're 12 years old, as was everyone in 2011. A mysterious new video game called Dark Souls had just hit store shelves, and critics everywhere were raving about it, with GameSpot giving it a glowing superb 0.5. Every critic talked about the game's unforgiving difficulty and warned that it wouldn't be for everybody. But you know what? You took that as a challenge. Who are they to tell you this game's too difficult? What makes them so much better than you? You're a regular 12-year-old, just like everybody else. You boot up the game, open those massive, glorious doors, and are met with the game's first enemy. Oh my god. Everybody has talked about their first encounter with the Asylum Demon because it's an unforgettable one. It sets the tone for the rest of the game, and you know, every other game in existence, it would seem. A lot of people talk about how this moment sets the tone for FromSoftware games being unbelievably difficult, but what they don't talk about is how this encounter also sets the tone for these games being terrifying. I mean, the Asylum Demon is borderline a jump scare. When people first enter this room, they don't go, "Oh, I get it. This is gonna be a game about insurmountable challenges, unfair odds, and overcoming obstacles by thinking outside the box." And even though it is doing all of those things, what people actually think when they enter this room is, fuck! But these games aren't just scary for the sake of being scary. They're using fear to teach you. The game gives you this broken little sword that's not even, like, fucking what is this? And they send you in and they're like, okay, go figure it out. And you try, and after a while you're just like, okay, well this is ridiculous. You're doing like no damage to the boss, you haven't even been taught how to play the game. Clearly you're doing something wrong here. So then you compose yourself, survey the environment, and notice an open door along the wall. You follow it, get some better items, learn the game's mechanics, and return to the arena stronger and wiser than before. Boom! Dark Souls just taught you your first lesson, and it used fear to do it. You learned that the challenges presented to you in this game are gonna be tough, but by staying calm and focusing, you will be able to overcome them. This is one of the most memorable intros in gaming history because it was burned into millions of gamers' minds through fear. I think the reason people don't talk about how scary this moment is because it's a fear you only really ever feel once. After the initial jump scare, the Asylum Demon just kind of becomes a big enemy, so the difficulty aspect overpowers the fear factor. But that's the thing. Dark Souls is a terrifying game the first time you play it. Blighttown's rickety scaffolding, Anor Lundo's dark hallways, the catacombs' entire existence. All of these locations are so harrowing because you have no idea what's hiding within them. And that brings me to the point of this video. These worlds are some of the most satisfying to explore in all of gaming because they're terrifying. I want to break down why the horror aspect of these FromSoftware games are so much more important than people think. The fact that these worlds are so unsettling, in my opinion, make them so much more compelling to explore than something like, say, Hyrule. Don't come at me yet, I'm gonna explain! Now, any example I use from Elden Ring will be within the first couple of hours, considering that it just came out, and most of the fun of these games is exploring them yourselves. That being said, I will mostly be using footage from Dark Souls and Bloodborne just to save from Elden Ring spoilers. Also, I've never played Demon Souls, so that's not in here at all. It's no surprise that a lot of games have adopted the FromSoftware formula and tweaked it in some small way. It feels like every action game nowadays has a stamina meter, a bonfire checkpoint system, and a mechanic where you lose all of your experience upon death. But there's a reason games like Code Vein, The Surge, and Nioh don't harbor as memorable worlds as FromSoftware's games. And it's because none of them realized that these game design choices were implemented in Dark Souls because they reinforce the horror aspects of it. Attack animations in FromSoft games can't be cancelled, so you have to commit to every strike. When you whiff an attack, you're stuck there having a panic attack, hoping the enemy doesn't punish you while you wait for your next chance to roll away. Meanwhile, if you attack too much, you could end up depleting your stamina meter and be left stuck without an escape option. Losing your experience upon death adds an extra layer of anxiety to exploration. Do you run back and level up your character at a bonfire? Or do you explore the secret cave you've stumbled upon, unaware of the treasures or horrors that lie inside? These aren't action game mechanics, they're horror game ones. So then when you take these mechanics and put them in another atmosphere, you're just left there sitting like, why am I the lamest Jedi now? You have a stamina bar, why again? Is there a reason I'm losing my experience on death, or did you just copy your friend's homework? Now don't get me wrong, I enjoyed Jedi Fallen Order, and I love Neo too, but I've never lost hours of sleep because I couldn't help myself from exploring just one more mysterious pathway in any of these games. These worlds just aren't as interesting to explore, and it's because they took these slow, methodical, anxiety-inducing mechanics and slapped them on fast-paced action games in rather tame atmospheres. Oh, but Danny, fucking Bloodborne's a fast-paced action game. Your argument's crumbling, Danny. How you gonna get out of this one? Bloodborne may be a faster-paced game than Dark Souls, but it didn't stray away from its terrifying roots. Dark Souls is scary like a dark, winding cave, with its oppressive atmosphere, cramped corridors, and possible terrors around every corner. Bloodborne, on the other hand, is scary like 1,000 fucking spiders running up your legs. Oh, Jesus! The world in Bloodborne is just as fucked up as the one in Dark Souls, if not more so. If Dark Souls is watching a thriller with the lights off, Bloodborne is having a panic attack. The type of fear is different in Bloodborne, and the mechanics reflect that. Unlike the Asylum Demon in Dark Souls, the first boss in Bloodborne actually punishes you for thinking calm and methodically. He's fast and vicious, with tons of ways to close the gap between you and him. On top of that, when you take damage, you have a brief period of time in which you'll recover health if you damage an enemy. That means you're encouraged to play aggressively, to be as vicious as the enemies you're fighting. Dark Souls teaches you to be calm under pressure, but Bloodborne teaches you to embrace the panic. And what do you know, they both do it by scaring the shit out of you. Each new location just fills you with dread. These games are all about piquing your curiosity and capitalizing on the fear of the unknown. That's what makes every FromSoftware game so compelling to explore. Well, most of them, at least. I'm sure many of you have noticed that there's one FromSoftware game I've been kinda dancing around. And it's because Sekiro, much like Neo, I think also misses the mark in terms of game exploration. Not entirely, though. Sekiro has horror aspects that I like, and the world's full of secrets, which is great, but I was never really compelled to explore it as much as I was other FromSoftware games, including Elden Ring. Yeah, don't worry, I'm gonna get to that one. And that's because the world really isn't that fucked up enough in Sekiro. And look, I like the snake. I like the fish. Big animal equals scary. I get it. But there just weren't any areas that really unsettled me. But then you get to Elden Ring and you see it's this vast, open world. And at first you're like, oh, this isn't so bad. Everything's pretty bright and colorful. I'm not too afraid to explore any of this. But then you find this girl and she tells you that there's this king locked inside of this castle. And he's been cutting off people's limbs and sewing them to his body to become one giant spider-like monster. And you're just standing there like, what? Yo, get me inside this fucking castle. You hear there's something fucked up like that, and the first thing you want to do is go explore it. Why is he grafting limbs to his body? What does that look like? Is there other nightmare shit like that in this game? And then you realize that the scary part of this game isn't traversing the wide open world, it's discovering the secrets inside it. Inside the caves, the castles, beneath the ground. There are so many fucked up creatures and events taking place beneath the surface of this gorgeous landscape, and you just want to uncover them all. On top of that, the dark, disturbing pockets littered throughout the world make you appreciate its moments of beauty even more. A gorgeous horizon view can make your jaw drop after you've just clawed your way through a dungeon decorated wall to wall with severed limbs. But by now I'm sure you're wondering, why does it matter if these worlds are scary? Shouldn't the fact that they're littered with secrets be enough? Well, yeah, secrets are great and, good loot is always fun to find, but scary is interesting. After I played Sekiro, I was worried that I just lost the wonder I originally had when playing these games. I thought that FromSoftware couldn't grip me with their worlds like they used to, that I just played too many Soulsborne clones to get sucked in again. Sekiro's combat was incredible, and it offered a massive new world for me to explore. So why wasn't I exploring every inch of it like I had Dark Souls or Bloodborne? But Elden Ring made me realize that I hadn't gotten tired of these games, I just needed to be dropped into a world that's equal parts new and intimidating. Let me put it this way, you're on your way to the main mission in some open world game, and you find a cave along the beaten path. Now, if it's a game that you know isn't really that scary, you're gonna go explore the cave looking for some cool boss to fight and ideally some good loot. But if you come across the boss and he's, not that interesting looking and the loot isn't really something you wanted, you're gonna be pretty disappointed. Yeah, it's fun to explore the cave, and it's great that there's secrets hidden throughout the game, but now imagine that scenario, and you don't know what the fuck's in that cave. It could be littered with, fucking 5-headed nightmare spiders that are all super difficult to kill, and they're hiding in shadows, and they jump out at you. Now, even if you get to the end of that cave, and the loot is kind of lackluster, and even the boss was a little too easy, the tense, thrilling experience you had making your way to the end of it will be enough to make exploring that cave feel worthwhile. And again, obviously this is all opinionated. I know there are people who don't like horror games, but even so, I would argue that some sense of tension and dread makes exploring stuff like that all the more interesting. It's so thrilling to wander across a beach and see some nightmare in the distance and be like, okay, let's go kill that, I guess. Just gonna... Oh god! Oh my god! Oh god, why? And then it's so satisfying to return okay, nothing to fear. Just a tentacle monster. You've read about plenty of these before, Danny. You know how to handle them. And then you're just so happy. You're just slaughtering puffins all along the beach. It's great. It's an amazing experience. You look at a boss from Bloodborne and you're like, Jesus Christ, what the fuck happened to you? Tell me you don't want to know every little detail about this thing's lore. And then you look at a Sekiro boss and you're like, yeah, you're cool, but you're just kind of a big snake. I mean, what do you want from me? You want me to act like you're not a big snake? Look at you, look in the mirror, find me a bigger snake. The boss designs in these games are so interesting and so compelling because they're so grotesque. You get a little burst of anxiety every time you enter an arena that you know is gonna house some kind of fucked up nightmare. You see an enemy like this and you're like, okay, cool, this'll be fun, I guess. He's probably gonna slash or stomp at me, maybe he'll have a few magic abilities. Cool, awesome, let's fight him. Hope he drops some good loot. And then you beat him, and you forget about it. But then you look at an enemy like this, and you're like, Jesus Christ, what do you even do? It's the same reason why exploring a dark abyss in Subnautica is so thrilling. Yeah, you're scared, but that morbid curiosity in the back of your mind is still tugging at you to delve deeper. And yeah, it'd be great if there's some good loot at the bottom of the abyss, but secretly you know you'll be satisfied knowing you've conquered your fear once you've explored it. It's why I brought up Breath of the Wild earlier. Hyrule's full of secrets and awesome loot to uncover, but for me, it's just not as addicting to explore as FromSoft's worlds. There's no fear tugging at me to go cautiously explore that cave off the beaten path. If I see an alternate path in a Souls game, I'm desperate to find out what's down it. But in a game like Neo, if an alternate route looks like it's gonna be a pain in the ass, I'll likely just rush through it or skip it entirely. And like I said, I love Neo too, and I had a lot of fun with Breath of the Wild, but I didn't find myself obsessed with exploring every inch of their worlds like I find myself doing right now with Elden Ring. FromSoftware's worlds are brutal, unforgiving, sometimes downright horrifying. The creatures don't want to be bothered, the caves don't want to be explored, and the most fucked up part about it all is that the developers know that's exactly what keeps us coming back to them. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you liked this video, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and check out my other video on why I think the upcoming Suicide Squad game should be a horror game, because apparently I'm the fucking horror video game guy now. If you look at my page right now, you see a lot of reaction style content. I really want to start making a lot more analysis style videos in the future, so make sure you subscribe so you don't miss them. For those of you waiting for my Skate the Infinity video, that one's coming next. I just wanted to get this one out as soon as possible since Elden Ring just dropped and everyone's excited about that. And if you want to help support the channel, make sure to subscribe to my Patreon, which I'll have linked in the description below. Every month you'll get exclusive access to a new video not found anywhere else. Right now I'm reacting to the first season of Food Wars, so if you want to see that, make sure to subscribe. Thank you all again so much, and I will see you guys next time.
I think we go together like we're sweaters in hot weather. You don't know, and you would think that I would just be dying for you, and I just don't know.